Kia ora and welcome to the Marlborough Book Festival podcast, the place where you can hear writers talk about their work, their lives and the inspiration behind their writing. I'm Sonia, the chair of the committee, and today I'm thrilled to be introducing the wonderful Barbara DeLeo, who leads a workshop on self-publishing. There's never been a better time to self-publish, says Barbara. Her workshop at the 2022 Marlborough Book Festival canvasses every step of the process, from writing and editing, formatting and publishing, to getting your book into e-readers, audio and libraries, and perhaps onto the shelves of little bookshops on the opposite side of the world. Barbara also talks about marketing, getting paid royalties for your work, and the potential pitfalls of being your own gatekeeper. Thanks to everyone who made the 2022 Marlborough Book Festival such a success. Every fortnight we will share sessions from this year's event all the way through to the 2023 Marlborough Book Festival. For now, please enjoy Barbara DeLeo speaking at the Marlborough Book Festival 2022.
Thanks, Charlotte. Nau mai, haere mai, e nā mana e nā reo e rauranga tira mā. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Welcome. I'm so excited to see so many people from Marlborough wanting to come along to a self-published workshop. When the committee and I first talked about this about a year ago, they said to me, well, you know, how long would you like? And I said, a week or 2 or 6 or... So when I got the 90 minutes, I had to think very carefully about what I was going to cover, because I know from having a look around the room that I have some people here who are already self-published. There are some people who have not started the manuscript that they want to self-publish. So we've got quite a broad range of things to go through today. So I hope you find something that's really useful for you. There's a lot of information, and to make it a little easier for you, I have popped this slide presentation onto my website, which is here. That is me, and that's some of my book covers, some of my latest covers. I am at barbaradeleo.com, and if you just go / Marlborough Book Festival, all of these slides are there for your use. And I'll keep them up there for about 2 months. Things change so rapidly in self-publishing world that I don't want to have incorrect information up there. But if you happen to go there and it's not there, just email me and I'll send it through to you. I've also got lots of live links on there to all sorts of places that might be useful for you. So hopefully that's all helpful. So I have got 3 spots through the presentation today for any questions. I'm happy to answer anything. I'm not the world's expert on self-publishing. I've just done it myself and I've done a lot of learning, so I'll try to answer the questions that you might have. So barbaradeleo.com / Marlborough Book Festival, and this is exactly what you'll get when you get there. In fact, we couldn't make my computer work, so this is what's showing through my website today. So, what are we going to cover today? We're going to look at these things. Why you might want to self-publish. The different sorts of self-publishing globally versus self-publishing in New Zealand. Different self-publishing formats. Getting your manuscript ready. Doing the most important thing, the writing. Then we're going to look at editing, how you get your manuscript proofed. We're going to look at formatting. We'll quickly talk about if you have illustrations, how you pop those into your manuscript. We're going to look at the importance of cover design, how you do that if you're not a graphic designer, how you get paid as a self-published author. We're going to look at different sales models. We're going to quickly talk about audiobooks, and then, depending if we've got enough time, the all-important marketing and advertising as a self-published author. And then I'll just talk you through the legal requirements as a self-published author in New Zealand. So please think of questions as we go, and as we get to our little points through, I'll try and answer those as well as I can. So my road to publication is that I started writing in about 2005, and I signed with a New York agent in 2011. Now that's a long time. And as today, back then, if you wanted to be published by any of the major global publishing houses, you could not approach them directly. they would reject. They wouldn't even answer your emails. There was no pathway for you to do that. The only way you could do that for most genres was to go through an agent. And to get an agent, you have to go through that kind of gatekeeping situation as well, where you send your manuscript, they decide if they want to take you on, and then they shop around. So it is still a very difficult path. There are some publishers who will take unsolicited manuscripts. Because I write contemporary romance, one of the biggest publishers in the world is Harlequin, and they did accept unsolicited manuscripts, but it still wasn't an easy road. Can everybody hear me all right? I feel like I'm sort of crackling a little bit. So I signed in 2011, and in 2012, so at the end of 2011, my agent sold my first manuscript, and my first book came out in 2012. I then had, with that publishing house, I had 6 books come out, various contracts from single book contracts. So I had a 3-book contract in there, and pretty much what happens is with that is you sign the rights for your book over to the publisher for a length of time. Mine was mostly 5 years, and so I had no rights to that manuscript through that whole time. They took care of everything, and they published, and I received the royalties from that. And that's still the way the traditional publishing model runs. You have to get through those gatekeepers, then you sign the rights to your books over, and then they do everything. So I did that. I had 4 small children at the time. I found it quite difficult to write really regularly and get books out really regularly. 6 books I think I had out in 5 years. That's quite a slow for my genre. Really what happens also is that with traditional publishers, and I'm certainly not bagging traditional publishers, they're great, and I'm not saying that I'm never going to go with traditional publishers again, but one of the issues that I had was that my book would be one of, say, 5 books that came out that month with that publisher. The bells and whistles go off, they might put some ads out for you. The end of that month, they've got another 5 books. They're finished pushing you. They're done. You have to do the rest of that yourself anyway if you're traditional. And I found that quite frustrating. I found it quite frustrating that they then, they might try and push me here, there, and on occasion, but it was really going to be up to me. So in 2019, I got all my rights back. My agent had to negotiate to get all my rights back with my publisher, and I now own all those rights again, and I have republished those, and I'm publishing new books as well. So that's really my road. Let's have a look at why you might want to self-publish. Quite a few reasons, and probably different reasons for all of you here. Maybe you just want to express yourself creatively. That's what you just want to write a book, and you want to have it out in the world. Maybe you've got a memoir or a memento or a story that you want to have available for anybody who might want it, but you're not interested in selling lots and lots of copies, or maybe you are. Maybe you want to just be able to print individual books, so perhaps you have a specific, really, really niche non-fiction topic. Maybe you're a hobbyist, maybe you've got model trains on a particular engine, and you want to be able to say to somebody, go to Amazon and buy my book on that. Maybe that's who you are. Maybe you want to share your hobby or your knowledge. Maybe you've had a particular thing happen in your family and you want to have books that are available for anybody around the world. Print books, digital books, audio books, whatever. Maybe you want to have your book available in libraries and bookstores all over the world and make money from it. Maybe you want to become uber rich and famous and making millions and having readers clamouring from your books. There are all of those reasons why you might want to self-publish. So this is how publishing used to be, and it's a little bit difficult to see on here, so I'll kind of talk you through it, but you can see it on my website. The flowchart was you write your book, so you got your idea, you write your first draft, you send it to your beta readers or your editor if you have one. You do your edits, And then you go down this kind of chain. Is your editor happy with it? No, then they send it back to you to do some more work. If they're happy with it, then they might pitch it to agents. Are the agents happy with it? Yes, you'd move on. No, you've got to go back to reworking it. And that top bit that's where you spend all your time, working, reworking, rewriting, doing all those sorts of things. And then you get down to here, if the agent's happy with it, they will pitch it to the publishers, and the publishers will then say if they like it or not. And then we'll go down, you'll sign with the publisher. Is the publisher happy? No, we go back round again, etc. Self-publishing, you still do your first 3 steps. If you're happy with it, you self-publish it. Okay? Now, obviously, there are positives and negatives around both of those, but that's really the two different... what's on the right here was the only way that you could do it about 2007. Okay, what a wee question for you. On average, what percentage of the book's cover price do you think a traditionally published author earns? So we're thinking of the cover price, what a reader would pay for it. Do you think it's 6%, 12%, 24%, 48%, or 56%? Have a wee think. Who thinks 6%? Okay, 12, 24, 48, 56? It's 6%. That's what the author earns. If you're agented, you then pay your agent 15% of your 6%. Okay? So, and that's still the way things go. It's, of course, the digital prices are lower than print prices, but that's still the way it works, and even when you're with a traditional publisher and they're doing digital. So let's have a look at what self-published authors earn. Do you think it's 10%, 30, 40, 60, or 70? Who thinks it's 10% of the cover price? 30% of the cover price for the author? 40%? 60%? 70%? You're right, it's 70%. If you publish with Amazon, you get 70% of the price that they sell it for. They get 30, you get 70. Okay? And you're probably not going to be agented. Of course, you're going to be paying for things like your editing and your cover and what have you, but it's quite a different model, as you can see. And that really hasn't changed. Now, before we go any further, I want to explain the difference between self-publishing and vanity publishing. Some people think they're the same thing, and they definitely are not. So, self-publishing is when you hold the rights to your book, just you, and the majority of the publishing, marketing, and distribution decisions are made by you. So you can do everything yourself in this process, or you can contract people to do it, the editing, the book cover design, your website. You can get somebody to do that, but you own those rights, okay? Also, the key is that the money flows to you, okay? Vanity publishing is when you give the rights to somebody else, and they also require you to pay for all the process. So they own the rights to the book, but you have to pay for print costs, you have to pay for editing, you have to pay for the cover design. These people are not... they are not discerning with who they choose. They just want the money. So they publish anything and everything. But beware. Do not go down the vanity publishing track, because you do not own the rights to your book. If something goes wrong, it's very difficult to get your rights back. Okay? If you're not sure if somebody is a vanity publisher, you need to go to Writer Beware. The link will take you through on my website. This is always updated, and it includes global companies who pretend to be self-publishing companies, but they are vanity publishing companies. Okay? So that's an important thing to look out for. Okay, so how is indie publishing, well, some people call it indie, independent publishing, or self-publishing in 2022? All you need is a computer, you need an internet connection, and you need a manuscript. You can be in charge of, as I said before, every aspect from obviously the writing, but you could even get somebody to ghostwrite it if you want to creating the covers, to the marketing and beyond. You can do it all yourself. There's an app for everything. You can do as much or as little as you want. I've got friends who just write the book and they have somebody to do their website, somebody to do their covers, somebody to do their marketing, etc., etc. And, you know, they're often people who are making multi-six figures, and so they want to just be focused on the writing, but some of them also want to do their covers, so you can also do all that yourself. And you can sell and lend books on multiple platforms all over the world. So I just wanted to talk about the difference between self-publishing globally and self-publishing in New Zealand. I have not self-published in New Zealand, I just publish globally, and that's pretty much because of the genre that I write in, but they are a little bit different. So you can sell any book globally, any book, and there are lots of benefits to doing so. So if you self-publish globally, there are mammoth storefronts, and I mean mammoth, that have millions and millions of people going on there every day just to buy books, and those people are hungry of every single genre that you could imagine. There are smaller upfront costs because you're not doing print runs with these big storefronts, and I'll explain that a little bit more in detail later. There's lower risk, so you have lower outlay, upfront outlay. You can do print on demand rather than having to print, say, a minimum of 200 or 500 copies. Okay, so you can just get those books printed whenever you want. I can go on today and say I want 200 copies of my book sent to me by next week, and they will be here. They'll get printed in Australia and Amazon in Australia. Distribution is simplified because those storefronts also distribute to their readers either the print copy or the digital copy. You don't have to do any of the distribution yourself. There's global expertise in all aspects of that, so you can get help from those places. They also offer subscription services, which is quite a new thing. I'll explain a little bit more about it later, but it's basically readers pay a monthly subscription, a little bit like Netflix, and they go to the storefront and they can borrow up to 10 books that are in that service without paying anything for it, and the storefront will pay the author by the number of pages that have been read in that month. I'll explain a little bit further about it later. You also, being on those storefronts, have access to stores and libraries, and I'll explain that a little bit further later as well. You also have that competitive royalty rate of 70% on, I think it's pretty much every single storefront. So when would you consider self-publishing in New Zealand? There are some instances where you might want to do it in New Zealand first. The first one is if you've got specific New Zealand non-fiction content. If you've got something that's specifically New Zealand in non-fiction, you may want to partner with a designer and a publisher, a printer in New Zealand that is going to get your books to where they need to go. Okay? Or sometimes if you've got a particularly niche genre, and often New Zealand literary fiction is going to do better than most genres in New Zealand. That makes a lot of sense, right? So you might want to do that. You might want to get a New Zealand based printer on board, designer on board to help you get that, and there are ways that you can distribute within New Zealand, but you won't then be able to distribute that beyond New Zealand. So the best way to do that, in my opinion, would be to do both, right? Because you're going to have to distribute yourself if you publish in New Zealand and you print in New Zealand and you've got your cartons of books in your garage. You're going to have to distribute that yourself. There's no reason at all why you can't do both. Okay, so that if you see somebody in a lift and they say, "Oh, I really want a copy of your book," and you don't have it on you, you can say, "Go to Amazon, it's on there." Okay, so there's no reason why you can't do both at the same time because you own the rights. You can do whatever you like. So where can you self-publish? These are the main players. So there's Amazon, which is about 90% of the market. Their self-publishing arm is called Kindle Direct Publishing, and it's very easy to operate. That link will take you directly to there. And as I said, it's 90% of self-published authors use it. They have millions of people buying books there every day, as well as other products. Kobo is really popular with New Zealand readers who read digitally, and the reason for that is that Whitcoulls were the sort of original retailers for the e-readers, and they stocked Kobo e-readers. Kobo's based in Canada, and it's very easy to publish with them. When you're thinking print, just by the way, the two main players, I should have popped that in there and I might fix it up on the website, are Kindle Direct Publishing and Ingram Spark. That's where you would get your print copies from. So a lot of people do Amazon first, and so they don't have to worry because you can do print there as well. But if you're not going to do Amazon, if you're going to do some of the others, you'd get your print books done through Ingram Spark, which I'll talk about a little bit later too. So Apple is Apple Books, and they are in Europe, Australasia, and the Americas. Google Play is worldwide, and it's very strong in Africa because they tend to have the Android devices rather than the Apple devices. So that's really good if you have content where your reader's going to be in Africa. Barnes & Noble is only in the United States. They have a device called the Nook device. I publish with them just because there are certain readers who like my books with them, so I'm with them as well. And Ingram Spark are a place where libraries and bookstores will go looking for new print books. So you can just have your books loaded up there. You're in their catalogue. Somebody's looking for a book on, as the trains that we were talking about. They want something for that in their library. They go into the catalogue. They see you there. They order the print books from there. Additionally, there's a place called Draft to Digital, and they go into all the niche, tiny little bookstores and niche libraries that aren't on the main library systems. So you can be with all of those. You can be signed up to all of those places, and you can get paid from all of those places. So I've got a question time at the end of this next slide, but the most important thing is that you're going to get your manuscript ready by writing your manuscript. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's poetry or non-fiction or a novel or whatever it is, you're going to need to write that thing. So these are the things to consider. Back in the day when self-publishing first started, people put up any old thing that wasn't proof, that was, all over the show. Our readers will not accept that anymore. You have to put your best work up there, both in content and in presentation. So always do your best work. Most of the major word processing programs you can use to upload directly to Amazon, but some of the other platforms don't allow you to do it directly. So you can convert it though. So you can write in Microsoft Word, you can write in Google Docs, you can write in Mac Pages. Any of those will be fine. You might have to convert them, but it's pretty easy to do that. So you can convert them using these two pieces of software. One's called Vellum and one's called Atticus. You can format your books to look absolutely beautiful. You can put links in the back for your digital books so that people can click on your website. They can click into buy the next book in the series. You won't be able to do that if you're uploading directly to, say, Amazon from Microsoft Word or Google Docs, for example. But if you're serious and you want to perhaps do more than one book, I would highly recommend either investing in Vellum or Atticus yourself or outsourcing it to somebody who can convert it for you. There are lots of people who do that, and I've got some links a bit further on to help you with that. Always consider your intended audience. This is going to be important when you come to upload and you put your metadata in the back of your book, and on the website, and I'll talk about that soon as well. That was a lot in the beginning. Who's got a question about anything that I've said so far? No, don't be shy. I know it's a lot, and there'll be some things that are relevant to you and some things that are not. Okay, so you have written that manuscript, and now what do you do with it? Maybe nobody has seen it. Maybe your best friend has seen it. It's not enough just to upload it straight to one of those places. You need to edit. And there are a number of ways and a number of types of editing that you will need to consider. So again, and I'll keep saying it, make sure you are you are giving your best work. And if that means that you're going to have to get your work edited multiple times, then by all means do that. So if your manuscript is longer fiction, so something like maybe 40,000 words or above, or if it's non-fiction, I would suggest investing in one or more of these. And especially if it's your first fiction book, I would highly recommend this first one here. A developmental editor is not somebody who does the spelling and grammar. A developmental editor is an editor who is experienced in book structure. A developmental editor will understand the genre that you're writing in and understand the way that that book should be presented in structural format. So what I mean by that is they will understand things like story arc if you're writing fiction. They'll understand how a story should evolve from the beginning to the end, and they will be able to read your manuscript and advise how you would go about changing some of that. Same with non-fiction. They can talk to you about the structure of the book for maximum readability and for maximum impact. They'll also talk to you about things like character and content development in your non-fiction book. So I'll tell you shortly about where you can find these people. But developmental editor is sort of the editor that sort of has the overarching view. The next is the copy editor, and they still don't look at the grammar and spelling. What a copy editor is looking for is things like continuity. So they'll be looking to see whether you had your character in a black pair of pants in the last scene and we're still in the same place and now they've got yellow pants on. Or whether you began in autumn and we're only a week, we've only a week down the track and now we're in spring. So they will look for those sorts of things. A good developmental editor will probably flag those things for you, but a copy editor is going to really look closely at that sort of stuff. They also will look at your pacing. Pacing is really important. When you're thinking about book length, most people I know who are writing fiction are going to be trying to keep their book around between, for a novel, between $40,000 40,000 words at the low end and at a stretch 110,000 words at the high end. Anything more than that, it depends on your genre. It really does depend on your genre. Often if you've got like epic fantasy books or massive science fiction, tomes, then you can go a bit longer because those readers tend to like those bigger books, but most other readers like things smaller. So your copy editor is going to help you with your pacing of the detail that you have if it's a non-fiction book, and the pacing of the character development, the narrative as you go through. Then the third person, of course, is your proofreader, and that can be a real live person, or you can employ some digital solutions for that as well. So your proofreader is going to pick up your spelling and your grammar. Now, you're going to need to decide where you're going to publish. If you are primarily going to be published in the UK and in Australasia, then you're going to want to make sure that you've got UK spelling and grammar. If you are in the US, you're going to want to make sure that you have switched your spelling and your grammar over to US. And yes, there are grammatical things that are different in those two places as well. So you can employ somebody to do that, and they should be based in the place where you are intending to publish. So there are lots of freelancers available to do these three things for you, and you certainly don't have to do all three. If it were my first novel, I would certainly be employing all three, because you also want people to read your first book and then read your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth. You don't want people stopping because of, that they've got bored halfway through. So there are a number of places. I've popped a very cheap one in there for you. It's called Fiverr. I don't even know if that's the way you say it. Those are, it's kind of unpoliced, but it's people, it's freelancers who freelance with all sorts of things. You can often get a very cost-effective solution for your proofing there. The New Zealand Society of Authors, who I highly recommend you belonging to as a self-published author, depending on genre, but they do have really good examples. They've got really good resources on their website for self-published authors, and they can point you to local people who do these three things. And then more specifically for writers, there's a website called Readsy, which has a very high threshold of skill. You have to be at the top of your game to be allowed to freelance on there. And they have all sorts of people on there. So you can get, and we'll get to it later on, you can get your book cover designed on there. You can get marketing help on there. But for this, you can get a developmental editor who has been a New York editor of, Hachette or, one of the really big publishers. They often when people go on maternity leave or when they have other things happening in their lives, they will freelance and you can employ them. They aren't cheap, but they are certainly the best of the best. So I'd highly recommend, if it's your very first time and you're really wanting to make a go of this, make a career of it, make some money out of it, I'd highly recommend you going onto Readsy. So that's the editing. That's just the Fiverr logo, that's NZSA logo and the Readsy logo, and those links will take you there. So for the proofing, you can also do that yourself. So most word processing programs, as most of you will know, have spelling and grammar checkers. You just need to make sure that's turned on when you begin. They're pretty good these days, but some of them will flag things that you might not. Maybe you write poetry. Maybe it's going to flag things because of your punctuation in your poems. Obviously, you're the boss of that, so you need to sort of be confident with that. There are more powerful pieces of software that you can get. There is a free version of Grammarly, which is pretty good, but you can pay for the better version. And there's a very powerful program called Pro Writing Aid, which connects into whichever program you're using. And it has very powerful, especially grammar suggestions. I get a little bit cross with it because it says things like, this is in passive voice, and sometimes I want to write in passive voice. So you need to kind of know that stuff as well. But it is pretty powerful. It does mean that you're going to have to go through and accept or reject as you go, but it does kind of learn what you're happy with as well. So it's a really good thing to invest in, and those links will take you there. Again, you've got your freelancers that you can use for that as well. And that's the Grammarly logo and the Pro Writing Aid logo. Okay, so formatting. You've got your manuscript in Microsoft Word or in Pages or Google Docs or whatever. You've written to your heart's content. You have sent it off to your editor, your developmental, your copy editor, your proofreader. They've come back. You've made the changes. You might have even sent it off to a proofreader again after you've made a lot of changes, especially if you're restructuring. Now you get to the point where you want it to look like a book. And you can, if you are just, as I said before, just going to Amazon, you can upload the Microsoft Word document directly to that and it will format it for you, but it's quite limited. You can't put, for example, links in the back of it, okay? So what have I said to you there? So places like Amazon and Draft to Digital offer basic formatting. So you can upload it and it will put it into a book for you. It's got automatic table of contents or automatic, where it says the chapters at the beginning, but you won't have that detailed stuff at the back. If you want more powerful things, I would highly recommend Vellum if you are a Mac user. And if you are not a Mac user, there's a way around it that you can use Vellum with a PC. It's a little bit more complicated. If you want to know about that, just email me and I can tell you. Or Atticus is a brand new program. It's only been out a couple of months and it is for both, I believe. And what that does is it sucks in your Word document or your Google Doc, and then in very simple way, it allows you to put your chapters in. You can put fancy chapter beginnings. You can put the scrolly thing at the end. You can put in the end, you can have a link to your author newsletter. For example, maybe you are wanting to do a cookbook. Maybe you want to get people onto a regular newsletter. You can have a live link in the back of that digital book that you format in your formatting program that people can click on, and then you've got their email address and you can send your newsletter out to them. So those, it's really good. That it also, in something like Vellum and Atticus, it allows you to produce all of the different sorts of files that you're going to need for the different storefronts. So, of course, Amazon is a little bit different. It's actually starting to change over to what everybody else is doing now, but some of the files are different. So, in Amazon, there've been .mobi files, whereas other storefronts like Barnes & Noble and Kobo have been .pub files. Vellum will just with a touch of a button produce all of them for you, and they'll also produce the PDF version so that for printing. So you're obviously going to want to take your links out of the back when you do that, but with a push of a button it'll produce the PDF that you would just send to a place like Ingram Spark where you're going to do all your print copies, or that you can send to a printer in Nelson if you want to get your work printed there, for example. So those are just some of the little Drafted Digital Amazon. Vellum, this is the little star one, and then Atticus is the one down the bottom. Okay, if you have photographs or illustrations, if you are a children's book and you've got illustrations, if you've got photographs to go with poetry or your cookbook or whatever, you can easily put those into your formatting software by just inserting the picture, and you can put it wherever you like, and you can change around the way that it looks. You need to make sure they're very, very high quality as you can get, because you don't want to have grainy looking things, especially when you're printing that out. Again, Vellum, it's really easy to add. So you don't want to scan a photo and then put it in. You want to have that original photo high pixelation, high resolution, so that it's easy to and really sharp when you're putting it in. Okay, covers. So the old saying goes, you can't judge a book by its cover, but it's not true. Doesn't matter whether it's a print book on a library shelf. It doesn't matter if it's in Whitcoulls or Paper Plus. It doesn't matter if it's on the Amazon digital bookshelf. Covers matter, and perhaps even more than they did in the past. You need to think very carefully about your cover. You need to understand your genre and what sells in your genre if you're wanting to make money out of this. You need to know what's current. My genre has gone through a huge change in 12 months, where the covers that used to sell now don't sell, and I've had to recover everything. So I've recovered. I don't even really particularly like the way that it's moved, but that's what sells. So that's another good thing with self-publishing, is that you can recover as many times as you like. And obviously you're going to have put something in the front to say that, this is still the same book, but what a place like Amazon will do is they will push that new cover out to your readers as well. So if they've bought the old cover, you can update the file in the back end of Amazon, and that will push out the new cover. So they will know that they've got the new cover if they're going to look if they've got that. So covers are vital if you want to make money. It must fit the expectation of your book's genre. So now I have this on my laptop, and I don't know if this is going to work on here, but we'll give it a whirl. And I don't know if I'll be able to find my way back, but I'll see. So what you need to do is to think about what your genre is, and that's not always easy, I know, but every book has a genre. It doesn't matter whether it's non-fiction or poetry or, medical thriller, it has a genre. If you click on your... don't change, we don't want to ship that to us. If you were to click on the top 100 books in your genre, you'll be able to see what's current and what's selling. So if we just have a little scroll down here, I just chose thrillers. You can look at the top 100 paid or the top 100 free. You can probably get a feeling about what's selling at the moment. What do you notice about these book covers in the genre thriller? Lots of text and lots of big text, absolutely. What is there not on the cover? No faces. We've got one little... No, we don't even have one there. Oh, we've got one sort of unusual kind of one here. And we've got one there. But lots of big text and lots of big author text. Of course, if you're John Grisham, you're going to have a big... you're going to have your name big as well. But you're a self-published author. You can have your name big as you like because, you're designing it yourself. You can make it look like whatever. Tess Gerritsen, her books often look like this with kind of a blue background. She's firmly in the thriller genre. But maybe you are not straight thriller. Maybe you are political thriller. How do they look? They look like these. They look pretty similar as well. But you see, even the colours, you can see what's the predominant colour through here. A lot of red, a lot of blue, a lot of red. So I would highly recommend you jumping on there and seeing, and they change. And also they change with geographical location. This is, I think I've linked to the .com store here, but if you were to go to the exact same genre in .co.uk, the British Amazon store, they will look different because those readers look for something different. And I know mine are the same wherever they are, but I know people who have different covers in the US as to opposed to the UK. So it's really important that you know this. Even if you're not designing it yourself, most graphic designers are not book cover experts. So if you're using your friend who lives in Marlborough, by all means do it, but give them a brief. Give them a good brief so that they know what is selling at the moment and what is not selling. Okay, so it's super duper important to know what that is. Okay, so again, you can outsource your cover design to a freelancer. Lots of really good ones on Readsy. Fiverr, that's a much cheaper version. Or you can make your own very easily. There are two that I use. One's called BookBrush, which is just for authors, and the other is Canva, which some of you might know for other things. They also have really good book cover templates that are super duper easy to use. And I've popped those links in there for you as well. So it's very important. Maybe it's going to work again. Oh, it is. Yeah, we're back. It's absolutely vital that you get the right copyright license. If you're using an image, any image on your cover, you have to have the right license. I've got friends who have been sued for thousands of dollars for thinking they had the right license, for thinking they'd have it done all the right way. Even things that they've had on their websites, it's really, really important that if you are doing this a lot, or even if you're doing it at all, that you get the right license. How do you do that? You do that by going to places that are reputable image stock photo sites, and they have various tiers of payment, and it's just an easy Google to find out exactly which one. I should have probably put it in there, but it changes a little bit. So it will tell you which license you need for a digital book and which license you need for a print book. Okay, and you can just buy that license and you're fine. Just do a little bit of research for yourself there. I do it all the time, and I know which license I need to get, and that's totally fine to use. So here is I have a free novella. So I write contemporary romance. And for years and years and years, our traditional cover was the couple clinch. So the couple right in the middle in that sort of triangular, like if you look at it, it sort of goes up to the triangle at the top. You've got them in a clinch, you've got your name at the top, and then you've got some nice big writing, and you've just got a little bit down the bottom. That's what it's been like for years and years and years, and I created that probably about 20 minutes. It's a free novella, so I didn't use my normal, I have a professional cover designer. Well, I did for this series, but this book was free. It's a free book for somebody coming onto my newsletter once they've read one of my books. And so I didn't want to pay a lot of money for that one, so I did that. And then things changed. Then contemporary romance no longer has a lot of couples on the cover, and that's just really quite recent and was a little bit shocking. So I'd had to do a lot of research about what was selling well, and so I took one of my old covers. Oh, by the way, I did that on BookBrush. Very easy. It's a story about a guy who was stuck in a guy who'd had a head injury. He'd met this girl. It's an old amnesia story. He'd met her years and years ago. Doesn't remember. Has some scars on his head. I needed a guy with a beanie. They're in a mountain house in Greece at Christmas. It needed to be snowing. I popped into Deposit Photos. Couple, guy with beanies and snow, and there was a photo, and so I just used it, and it was pretty perfect. But then things changed, and we now have in contemporary romance what we call vector covers, which I'm not a great fan of, but I sell, so that's all right. They are kind of like cartoony. So I had a couple clinch cover on this for about 18 months, very similar to the one on the left that my cover designer had done. I decided to recover it, and this is it now. So I just it shouldn't have that little blue thing around it. That's not there, but very easy to do. Just get the vector, pay for the right license, pop that on, and I created that one in Canva. Really easy, effective, and it looks really nice in Amazon because it's bright, and even when it's got its little thumbnail, it's really easy to see. Again, that's a whole lot of information. Who's got a question about anything we've talked about so far? Yes. So you don't need an absolute copyright on your own cover. You just need a copyright on the. Oh, do you mean if you got an illustration? So it's an interesting thing. I kind of went down this rabbit hole when I first started, and it's the same with getting a copyright on your book. All you need to do is to put in your book, copyright Barbara DeLeo 2022. That's all you need to do, and that you now own the copyright to the cover and the book. What I'm talking about before was the copyright on the image, but if you're meaning the whole thing, that's all you need to put in. You just need to put in copyright, and that's enough, I believe, for New Zealand law. Yeah.
Just about going back to editors, your thoughts on the relationship you have with an editor, like that you're paying for, and that sort of it's basically an employee versus if you're trad published, the editor is not paid by you, so the public relationship.
You're absolutely right, and it's a really, really good question and quite a tricky thing to negotiate and navigate for yourself. Yeah, because you're paying them and then they're telling you it's a load of rubbish.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I would do my research and make sure I get a really good... If I'm paying money, I want to know that I believe in that person. I'm going to be Googling and finding out who else they edit. I want to know that they know my genre. I'm not going to get anybody other than an editor who knows contemporary romance to edit my book, because I don't believe they know what they need to know about story arc and character development and narrative drive and those sorts of things. So I think if you have done that homework and you've really thought carefully about who that person is, then you're just going to have to bite the bullet. And obviously you're not going to accept everything they say, but you're going to take into account their experience, their understanding of the market too. I wouldn't have an editor who has been out of the market for a long time, because the market does change. You want to make sure that it's somebody who knows their stuff. So yeah, it is tricky. It is a tricky thing to negotiate when you're paying somebody. But I certainly wouldn't pay a whole lot of money to a highly skilled professional and then not take their advice. Does that help? Does that answer the question? You're absolutely right. Yeah.
People are going to come back and say you're going to need to rewrite that entire
Yes. Absolutely. It is really difficult. And I would ask the question, do they know what they're talking about? Have they edited this kind of work before? Do they really understand what specifically is not right with it? But I think the answer is probably in the quality of the person that you have employed. And which is why if I was starting out, I would employ somebody from Reedsy, somebody who has been an editor at a big publishing house who knows their stuff. Yeah, and you might have to do a bit of due diligence before you hire them. But ultimately, you are your own boss. You don't have to do what they tell you. You can do whatever you like, but you need to know what those consequences might be further down the track if people are not going to buy your books because you don't meet the genre expectations, for example. Or, people are just putting the book down because it's not engaging. So I hope that's helped a little bit, yes.
Europe used to be notorious for ripping off people's books, like Charles Dickens.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Do you mean in terms of people publishing your... It's absolutely, so it's massive. It's a massive problem, but all publicity is good publicity. I mean, my books are pirated all over the show, everywhere. And you're not going to stop it. There's no way. I mean, there are things that you can do. My publishers would put, cease and desist notices and they'd be gone and then they'd pop themselves up somewhere else. So it's definitely a problem, but... it's something that I feel like is not a reason not to do it, I think. So yes, you certainly do have that happen, and it was probably more of a problem when people were publishing digitally in the first, back in the beginning. But yeah, it can be a problem, but I don't really bother about it. Yeah. Yes. You absolutely can. Yes. It depends on what your steps are. I write in Scrivener, and for people who don't know, Scrivener is an amazing writing project management software. So I write in that until I get to the point of sending it to my editor. So my editor is going to need a document that they can read that is not in my format in Scrivener. So I export to Word, and then I work in Word. So you definitely could do that, but I'm not sure how you would go around... if you then wanted to plug it into Pro Writing Aid to get the spelling and grammar checked, for example, that might be a bit tricky. So a lot of my friends do it that way as well. We work in Scrivener right till the end when we're pretty happy, and then we export to Word and then go through that way. But so I haven't done it from Scrivener myself, but that's certainly a possibility. Scrivener is an amazing program that, I would trust that they would do what they say they would do. So yeah, you could try it yourself if you didn't want to go the extra step. Scrivener is I might add it to the slides for you for later. So it's a writing management software. So the beauty of it is that you can have, so to say, for example, I have 3 panes open when I write. Down the left-hand side, I've got every single scene that I want to have. In the middle, I've got my word processing part. And on the right-hand side, I've got all my inspiration. I've got pictures, I've got links, I've got little things that I want to remember later on. I've got information from past books. I have all my series all connected together. So I've got a series that has got 7 books in it. If I can't remember what Priscilla's dining room curtains colour was, I can just go Priscilla's curtains and it will find it in every single one of those books. So it's a really powerful management tool. What I can also do is go, that scene's not working there, I'm going to pull it all the way up to here, and it takes the whole scene with it. I can then, I'm having a bad writing day, I need to get my words down, I can go and write the ending. It's right there, I write the ending and then jump back. So you're not having to scroll all the time. It's really, really good. It's a little bit complex to get started with, but when you start, if you treat it like just a word processing program and just use what you need, there are lots of really good YouTube videos about how to use it. There's lots of good free webinars on how to use it as well. Most of my friends who are full-time authors like me use Scrivener. Yes. Do I use a beta reader? Yes, I do. Yes, so a beta reader... Sorry? So So I had do you remember the flow chart that we had? Right, so I've got them at step number 2. So step number 3. I write it and then I do my editing and then I send it to my beta readers and then I send it to my editor. So my beta readers, a beta reader is really somebody who will read the book before it's published, and they will look for things like, I've got readers who have read everything I've ever written and they know my characters better than I do. Like I've had them email me and say, well, actually, he's a size 7 in the shoe, not a size 10, that sort of thing. So I've got readers who I send stuff to and they'll say to me, look, I don't like that guy. He's a bit harsh in his dialogue. I don't know if that I really like him. And so I've learned to trust these people, and I would use beta readers either before I send to the editor or after it's been to the editor. It really depends on the process and the way you want to work. Yes? Where do you find beta readers? That's a really good question. Yeah. Oh, look, Mum's always a good person to start with. Honestly. No. So they're my super fans who they get all. And I keep it to 30 people. I trust them implicitly. I'm very strict with them in what they do, and I've got ways of knowing if they have sent things on because I've got watermarks on my things that I send. So you kind of build it up. I would just give it to a trusted reader friend who reads in the genre that you're writing, though. Like I don't give my books to a lot of my friends don't read romance. I don't want them reading it because they don't necessarily know the conventions and what I need to have in my books. But I would give it to people who are interested. There are lots of ways to do it. Social media, like if you're on social media and you've got people who are starting to follow you as a poet or as a cookbook author or whatever. Just say, look, I've got a manuscript looking for some beta readers, and ask them some questions. Yeah. Okay, there's another. Yes. That's all right. Yeah. Yeah.
What would you recommend in terms of ideal amount? And 2, what do you advise when you kind of have a couple of contradictory things?
Yeah. Yeah. So I send out to those beta readers also because they're my reviewers. So I probably get about there are probably 10, between 5 and 10 of those who will give me feedback. The others will just be doing it for a review. If I get the same thing from more than 2 people, like he's too mean to her in that scene, or you can't have killed the cat in that chapter, I'll just go, yeah, they're probably right. But sometimes I just go, I just feel like I need to put that in there. So I definitely wouldn't have more than 10. And I probably in the early years only had 3 or 4 people. I like people who are going to spread the word about my books as well. So I've got probably a different thing than other people might starting out. I would certainly be careful with the advice that they're giving you, and you can always kick them off the beta reader team if you don't like what they say. Because you're the boss. You're the self-published boss. Okay, how do you upload to retailers? This stuff is a little bit dry, but it's important that we go through it so that you understand all this. So to upload to retailers, this is what you need. You need your edited manuscript that's come back from the editor and that's proofed and fabulous and already and sparkly and shiny. You need your cover that you have created or that your designer has created for you in the right dimensions, and it's very easy to Google, and actually most retailers tell you what the dimensions need to be. You need a title, and often you need a subtitle because that needs to go into the back end of whichever retailer you're selling it on. You need categories. Now, the categories are linked to your genre. In Amazon, they allow you to put 2 categories in, but you can email them with up to 10 categories. So, for example, I write general contemporary romance, right? But I also write small town contemporary romance. So my books need to be in small town contemporary romance as well as contemporary romance. So I need to know those categories, and that helps the algorithms match the reader with the book, right? I also write multicultural romance. So I need to have the books available to people who want to read about multicultural romance, right? So those categories are really important for you to know. There are ways that you can find out what other people's categories are. And I haven't put it in here, but there's a piece of software called Publisher Rocket, where you can pop in Dean Koontz and you can find out what all his categories are. You can put my name and you can find out what all my categories are. I'll try and remember to add that as well. It's called Publisher Rocket. It's a piece of software that you buy and then it's always updated. That's really useful, but you need to know what your general categories are. Most people, it'll be just pretty straightforward. It'll be fiction, thriller, for example. But you also have the opportunity to put 7 keywords in there. Okay. Later on today, I'm interviewing Colleen Shipley, who is a local author who has First of all, she went the New Zealand self-publishing route. So she had a New Zealand book based in Marlborough. It's a perfect opportunity to self-publish in New Zealand. She got a printer. She got her books printed. She got it into libraries, into bookstores. Then she decided she wanted it to be available to everywhere. So we worked together to get it uploaded to Amazon, so you can now get it there as well. And we had to work out what her 7 keywords were. So her book is about... It's set around a Second World War, so between 1942 and 1945 in New Zealand. It's war fiction, it's about women, it's domestic fiction. So we needed to pop those types of keywords in there. Now, why do you put keywords in there? Because those are the words that people type into Amazon. So if I was to wake up in the morning and decide, I want to read a story about women in rural New Zealand during the war, I might put women, New Zealand, Second World War into Amazon. That might be the only words that I use. The algorithm's going to search every single book that's in that catalogue, which is millions and millions and millions of them, and Colleen's book's going to pop up. So you need to think really carefully about which keywords that you use. I've changed keywords depending on things. Again, Publisher Rocket, which is the software that I told you about, can help you find keywords, but you can do it yourself. You just go into Amazon and put in what you think people might put when they're going to find your book, and you'll get a whole list of what people have typed in. So if it's our model train guy, we might put, engine 364 1962 metal, blah, 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 and you can put that in and see what other things people have popped in for keywords. So it's really important to pop those 7 keywords in, and you can put those in at the beginning. You need to decide your price, especially at Amazon, which again is 90% of self-published authors publish on Amazon. The price should be between $2.99, which sounds like nothing, but remember you're getting 70% of that, to $9.99. And the reason for that is if you go lower than $2.99, you'll only get 30% royalties, and that's because Amazon wants to keep the price higher. And if you go over $9.99, it will drop to 30% royalties as well. So you want to keep it between $2.99 and $9.99. Most fiction is priced between $2.99 and $5.99. Print books would be around about $9.99. It's different. It depends. It's different. And of course, I'm talking American dollars, not New Zealand dollars. You also need your payment and your tax details, so your bank account and your New Zealand tax details. So what else have I put on there? So I think I've gone into, you'll need to upload your ebook and your print book separately in the same slot, and you'll need to have your different versions of the manuscript without your links in the print one, and you just need a different size of your print cover as well. And I'm thinking about Amazon here, but it's the same with all the other big retailers. How do you get paid? Very important. It's very easy. So we've got a tax treaty with almost all of those stores, because most of them are based in the US. All you need to do is to put in your New Zealand IRD number in the KDP Publishing when you go in there. And remember, I've put that link right at the beginning, KDP Publishing. It will ask you for your New Zealand ID number. They will tax you 5% at source. And then when you come to work all your tax out at the end of the year with your accountant, they will claim that 5% back, and you'll pay your normal tax in New Zealand. Okay, so they just take that 5% off. It's very, very simple. Most stores will pay directly to your bank account. I go through PayPal just because it's an easy way for me to keep track of all my payments because I've got them coming in from all sorts of places. And PayPal is really good for accounting software and what have you. And so they get paid directly into PayPal, generally in American dollars, and then I just push a button and it gets paid into my New Zealand bank account, my Blenheim bank account. So it's easy. And again, your royalty will be 70% if you're between $2.99 and $9.99. I'm just going to speed up a little bit because I think we're going to run out of time. Subscription model. A lot of people don't know about this. So I mentioned it a little bit earlier. If you publish on Kindle Unlimited, which is a part of Kindle Direct Publishing, or Kobo Plus, there is a box you can tick that says that you want to go into these programs. Now, these are like Netflix, where the readers pay, it's about $9.99 US, and they can borrow 10 books that are in that program a month, up to 10, and they can read those for free, just like you would watch on Netflix for free. How does the author get paid? Well, it's a little bit controversial and it's a little bit problematic for some people, but the way you get paid is by the number of pages read. So there's something called the Kindle Global Fund, and that's all of the books that have been borrowed. I think it's $1 billion, and that gets divided up into all the authors who have had books borrowed from there, and you get paid for the pages that people have read. So if somebody gets to page 5 in your book, tough luck. You want them to read a lot. So it's really good. It's really good, except that if you go in Kindle Unlimited, you can only be with them. You can't be on Kobo, you can't be on Barnes & Noble, you can't be on Google Books. You can only be in Kindle Unlimited. You can still have your books for sale on Kindle as well for people who aren't in Kindle Unlimited, but you can't have them anywhere else. It's different on Kobo. On Kobo Plus, you can be in Kobo Plus on all the other retailers. So the readers pay their monthly fee and the author gets paid by the number of pages. What else was I going to say about that? I think that's okay. You can also sell your books direct. Okay, so you can sell direct from your own website. It's very easy to create your own website these days. I created my website with Wix. WordPress is also really easy, but of course, again, you can outsource. Nerdly is a new website, easy drag and drop website maker specifically for authors. So you could try that out. I haven't tried it out. And then you can sell from your website. There's something called PayHip, which is a place where your readers can come. They go on your website. It's a normal e-commerce website, and your book, a copy of your book can go directly into their e-reader, or it can get posted out. Okay, so I haven't done it myself, but I know people who do, and they like using it. Audiobooks, another whole market that you can do. You own the rights to this book. You can do whatever you want with it, and you can do that all yourself as well. So it's a growing market. It's been a little bit quiet, hasn't grown as fast as we thought it was because of the pandemic, and the reason for that is because a massive part of the audiobook market is the commuter market. So you've got all those people on the London Tube and in the New York subway listening to audiobooks, and because of lockdowns and people working from home, the market has gone down a little bit, but it's certainly resurging now. People, because of podcast popularity, has also got a lot of people onto audiobooks as well. How do you get your audiobook narrated? Well, you go to ACX, which is owned by Amazon, or you can go to Find Away Voices. There, you can audition narrators to read your book. I've got a friend who writes Scottish romantic comedies. She lives on the West Coast. She doesn't want her book read by a New Zealand accent, obviously. So she goes on Find Away Voices, she auditions, and she has like young women as her main protagonist. So she's auditioned and she's found this perfect Scottish accent, and she gets this narrated. It's quite expensive. If you are just doing the contracting model, you'd pay about $3,500 for an average length novel. But there's also profit share. So you can also halve that cost by profit sharing with the narrator. So it's really quite a nice model. And then you can upload to places like Audible, and Chirp is another place. There's lots of different places where you can then upload. So that's a whole nother thing. Google Books, if you're published with Google Books, you can use their artificial intelligence. Now, it doesn't sound like that horrible computer voice of the past. It really sounds good. I've tried it out myself. It also allows, I've got quite a few of my books have got multicultural characters. I've got quite a few Greek characters who are native Greek speakers. I don't want their dialogue to sound like they're, born in New York. I want them to sound like, and so you can change the pronunciation yourself within that. It's free to use. If you want to try it out, I highly recommend it. And then you can upload it. You can't upload it to Amazon, unfortunately. They don't like AI at the moment, but I believe you can upload it to Kobo. I'm pretty sure you can sell that on. You can sell audiobooks that are narrated by AI on Kobo. So that's something. You earn more on audiobooks as well. So that's something you could look into. I'm going to race through this because for a lot of people this is not an issue, but it's really important if you are trying to make money. You can't just put that book up there and expect people to buy it. You still are going to need to do some marketing. So the most common ways are to use an advertising service, Facebook advertising, Amazon advertising, via an email newsletter that is owned by you, paid newsletter advertising where you pay a company that is just for readers, that just has readers looking for new books, virtual book tours, or dedicated book advertisers. So Facebook advertising really quickly is actually really good for self-published authors. It's pay per click, so you pay for somebody clicking on the ad that you have created. Is that me doing that? The beauty of it is that you can target specific readers. So for our example of our engine person who's written a book about model trains, they might just want train enthusiasts who are men between the ages of 45 and 65 who live in Europe. And you can do that so that the only people who are shown those ads are and who are readers. And so you can narrow it all the way down there. You can also manage your costs. You can say, I only want to spend $5 a day. And you can send them directly to those storefronts. So they just click and that takes them straight through to Amazon. Click straight through to Kobo, whatever it is that you've put on the end of your click. So it's really quite powerful. It's good for discounted and free books. Everybody likes a discounted or free book if you want a book one in a series, for example. And there's lots more complicated things that you can do that I do. Like anybody who's ever been on my website, I have a pixel on there. So that it tracks those people, and then when I've got a new book out, I can just target people who have been to my website before. Right? I just go use Facebook Pixel, and it will use the pixel that I've got on the end of my website. It's a bit more complicated, but I can do. I did it myself, so you can do it yourself. Amazon advertising, I'm kind of morally against it, but. You've got your website, you've got your book on their website, and they're taking 30%. And you're paying them to advertise it. But what that means is it's also pay per click. It means that if somebody does put in, engines from 1964 in there, the algorithm will also pull your book in. Or say, for example, you think your book is like a Lee Child book, you can have it pop up when people are on Lee Child's page, okay? So it's very powerful as well. People are looking for books, so they're a captive audience. You can target similar authors to you, and your ad can pop up on their page, and it's available in lots of Amazon stores. One that all my friends who are full-time authors use, and I use, is my reader list. So in the back of my book, I've got a love-hate relationship with Amazon. I hate a lot about what they do, but they certainly can sell books. If anything were to happen with Amazon, if they were to make a decision that was totally against everything that I believed in, I wanted to pull my books off there, if I didn't have the email addresses of people who love my books, I'd be screwed. So in the back of my books, put a little bit of what we call a magnet, a reader magnet. To get people in, I get them to click on a link, they get a free novella, and I get their email address. And then I send all of those people on my email list once a month. I send them an email about what I'm writing, how things are going, if I'm doing new covers, if things that are happening in my life. And so when I have a new book out, those are the people that are going to buy my book first off. So it's really important. So I use an email reader list, and these are some of the most common. Other businesses use these as well, of course. All of those ones that you get from clothing shops, I get a lot of those. I use MailerLite. It's really good. It's intuitive. It's user friendly, and it's linked in with my website, and it's also linked in with the service that I use to automatically download my free book onto people's. I didn't put that in there. It's called BookFunnel. If you're at that point in your career, BookFunnel will deliver directly to people's e-readers the books from there. And I also use that with my email list, and those are just some of them there. You can use paid newsletters. So, for example, you've got millions of subscribers. BookBub has millions of subscribers. They send out an email every day with the best book deals, and you have to pay. It's about 900 New Zealand dollars to get one book on one email. So, and they take 20% of the submission, so it's really hard to get on there. But when I have a BookBub, which is called a BookBub feature deal, I pay $900 for it, and I probably sell about $5,000 worth of books in one day. So it's a really good thing to do, really, really, really good thing, because they are readers who are choosing the books. There's websites like Free Booksy, The Fussy Librarian, which is a cute name, that are like BookBub but a little bit less. The final slide I have for you today is some legal requirements that I'll also go over quickly, and then we'll have 10 minutes for questions. So legally in New Zealand and all around the world, every single book that is ever published has to have an ISBN number. It's an international book number that attaches to a book. There's a different one for an ebook and a print book. Now, if you are just going on Amazon, they will give you your print ISBN. You don't need to get one from anywhere else. And they will also, but then if you want your print book, so if you want print on demand from Amazon or print from Ingram Spark or anywhere, you need an ISBN. Now, lots of countries you have to pay for ISBNs, but in New Zealand we're lucky that our National Library gives us free. All you need to do is jump on that website, say that you're a self-published author, and they will send you one ISBN. If you prove yourself to National Library and say, I have lots of books come out, you can get packs of 10, which is really useful, and you just pop that with that individual book. That will then link to the barcode of the book, and that is unique to your book the world over. The final thing that you need to do is that every single book published by a New Zealand author, it doesn't matter if you've never published in New Zealand, which I haven't done, you still need to have your books in the National Library. So the National Library has to have a copy of every single book published by a New Zealand author. So you are required, and I popped the link in there, to give a digital copy and a print copy. And it's like an archive. So all the old copies of my books, everything I've ever written, even if everything shuts down everywhere, the National Library still has that in perpetuity. So those are your legal requirements, the general legal requirements. Oh, I haven't done self-publishing in New Zealand. So, sorry. Self-publishing in New Zealand, you would do kind of every single step except uploading it, right? You can get editing service in New Zealand. You can get typesetters and printing in New Zealand. You can get cover designers in New Zealand. You can get marketing advice. You can get distribution advice in New Zealand. As I said, it's particularly good for non-fiction books that are specific to New Zealand or some kind of niche genres. I've popped some local printers in there for you, these places where you can go and get your book printed. So what you would do is you'd from Vellum, you'd do your PDF copy, and then you would send that to the printer and they would print it. What you have to do differently is you need to distribute your book yourself. I've got this information from New Zealand Society Authors, and they're always updating. You'd probably have a designer who would liaise with your printer. So you would give your designer all the information, your cover if you've got it, your PDF if you've got it. They would help you with the typesetting and design in liaison with the who's printing it for you. You'd get it print and bound to their minimum requirements. You would pay that money, and then you would own those print copies. There is no way of distributing ebooks just to New Zealand, as far as I'm aware. It's only print. The marketing and distribution you would be doing yourself, and you'd want to make sure that if you're going into New Zealand libraries, that you've got at least 50 copies of your book in New Zealand libraries, and then you are eligible for what's called the public lending right. That's a pool of money that New Zealand authors who are only published in New Zealand who are published in New Zealand, even if they're published elsewhere. If you have 50 books in New Zealand libraries, you will get a percentage of those, depending on how many borrows you've had. And you can also register with Nielsen Book Data and BookScan to go into their catalogues for libraries and bookstores who are wanting your books. Of course, you can go and do all that yourself as well. So my advice would be, why not aim for a reader in Spain or Portugal or Africa as well? Doesn't matter what your book is. Why not do both if you even if you are in those niche genres? So I've got lots of resources here for you. I use these all the time. Joanna Penn is a podcaster. She's been self-publishing since the very beginning. She's married to a New Zealander, so she sometimes comes here and runs a workshop. She's great. The Creative Pen is her weekly podcast. Mark Dawson is probably one of the most famous self-publishers. He's a thriller writer. Sorry, Joanna's a thriller writer as well. He has a weekly podcast as well, but he also has a pretty pricey but pretty good introduction to self-publishing, which I bought and used. He's got a really good how to advertise with self-published book course as well that you can sign up with. He's probably considered the guru, but the self-publishing show. So the self-publishing formula is the courses, and the self-publishing show is a weekly podcast. The Spa Girls are 4 New Zealand writers who write across genres. They were self-published very early. They do a weekly podcast and a weekly YouTube channel. I listen to them every week. They're fabulous. Wish I'd Known Then is people who have self-published and their advice on what not to do. They've got a weekly maybe they're twice weekly. New Zealand Society of Authors, definitely sign up and look at all the legal advice, general places to go for good advice, self-publishing in New Zealand. And this guy, David Goffrin, he's a historical fiction writer. That's not the name that he publishes under. Nobody knows what name he publishes under. He's kept that secret. He's got a wonderful... if I was going to do anything after today, I would do his free starting from zero self-publishing course. It's self-paced. You can do it how often you like. He updates it. He's also got a fabulous YouTube channel with all sorts of information. He is pretty cutting edge. He also keeps it up to date. Those are just their little logos. After this slide, I'm going to put my website up with the link to these slides. I might even go in and add a few things that I've thought of. That'll be up for 2 months. Do not hesitate to contact me through there if you've got any questions after today, but I'm sure there are some before we go. Yeah, it's a very good question. In the beginning, I spent more time when I was learning how to do it, definitely more time. And if you want to make a career, if you want to make money, you have to protect that writing time, because if you don't have a book, you don't have a business. So at the moment, it depends. I am in a active writing phase at the moment. I'm 3/4 of a way through a book which... was supposed to come out 2 months ago, which I have had to push forward because of various life things happening. But I spend very little time doing this now because I've got all of those people on board who work for me. I have to book them in. Some things I do myself. My website I do myself, but I mean, when I'm in an active writing phase, I would do very little. And then other phases, I might spend 2 weeks updating my website or 2 weeks covering all my books or something like that. Once you learn how to do it, though, it is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Or if you don't want to learn how to do any of it, you just write and you pay people to do all the rest. And you just need to manage that. Just do some time management. Yes? So, yes, I know. Sorry, there was a lot. Sorry? Oh, lots of better people than I have done so. But I know you have self-published, Luke. No, but I just wanted to say that you have done the New Zealand. Are you thinking about doing the global?
Well, I just had a question about that actually, about timing of print versus digital editions. If you publish print for New Zealand and you want people in other markets to access it, then obviously you do an e-book for international.
Absolutely, but you could do print for international as well. There's no reason why you couldn't have both. You probably need, because you'll have an ISBN on that print book, it'll be the same that you put in the back of Amazon or wherever you are. But yeah, I would do both. There's no reason not to.
A traditional publisher told me recently, if you have e-book, unrealistic, but I hope perhaps one day some print editions, when I know something like in the UK, that if you, because I was thinking of doing an electronic edition immediately, he said better to wait 6 months or something, and if your New Zealand print copy sales, hard copy sales would be okay, then there's at least a chance of a foreign agent, or say UK agent or publisher, looking at it, whereas if you had an e-book already available, there's no chance.
It's probably true that if you have an e-book and then want to go traditional, it's quite difficult. I mean, a publisher, there's 50 Shades of Grey, she did it, but that's probably quite difficult to do. They really don't want to republish something that's already been published, but it's kind of a tricky one because it depends if your goal is just to be traditionally published, then I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it like that. I wouldn't publish an ebook. But if you want to build your readership yourself through print and ebook, then I would do that. It's really difficult to say. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on your genre. It depends on your setting. It depends. It depends on a lot of things. But I wouldn't want somebody to go down the e-book if they really wanted that same book to be published. But if you want to give it a try and you want to get a later book published, like for example, I'm giving my agent this book that I have now because it's a bit different for me, and she's read it and she's read the first half and really likes it and thinks she has a publisher in mind. I can still do that, and they will actually like it because they know that I know how this all works. They know that I can market books myself now. Most publishers don't spend nearly the money that they used to on marketing you. So, yeah, we can sort of certainly talk about it afterwards, Luke, but it just kind of depends. If you are, if you do want to go that traditional route, then I would hold off on the ebook. If you want to do it yourself and you want your print book available overseas, you want your ebook available overseas and in New Zealand, then I'd certainly jump in and do it. Any other questions at all? I am more than happy to stay behind and answer any questions that you have specifically about your work or anything to do with writing or anything or groups or anything. I've probably forgotten some things along the way, but we are at 11:30. Thank you so much for attending today. I'm so pleased to see so many of you here, and don't hesitate to email me and jump on the website to get the slides, and I'll keep those updated with a few extra things as well. And that is this here.
That was Barbara DeLeo speaking at the 2022 Marlborough Book Festival. A big thanks to all the writers who have supported the festival, as well as the audiences that attended in person or listened online. If you'd like to learn more about the event, head over to marlboroughbookfest.co.nz. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.